Good morning, everyone. It's Hope. I've been getting a lot of questions about my garden lately, so I thought I'd take a few minutes just to share with you what's going on back here this year. Now, we're just getting started because it's just the end of April, not even quite May yet. So, just a few things that I've been doing in the garden. The first thing I did was I pulled all the sprinkler lines from my planter boxes and mixed in my compost that I've had going for about 4 or 5 years now. Lots of worms in it, so it's really good for the garden. And then I purchased some container dirt this year. I usually have to top off the boxes because they just get a little bit low. And I pulled in 14 cubic feet, so 7 2 cubic foot bags. And that box at the end took a couple, and it's still not all the way to the top. So I did that to prepare the garden, and you can see I've got some of my drip sprinkler lines out of the boxes. I've got a couple of them in, but I'll show you what I've planted so far. So this little corner box goes right around my garden, or right around my patio, and in this box I've already planted some Swiss chard over here, collard greens here, and back here I've got like a blue kale and a red Russian kale. Now, as you can see, I've got stuff coming up already, and it's funny because this box was down about 6 inches lower than it is now, and I had a few things kind of sprouting. I thought, well, whatever it is, it's coming up from last year. Last year I had like a spring mix, lettuce mix here. It's not really a good place for it. It gets a little bit too much sun, and it was kind of dry, so it was tending to bolt. So I've kind of moved where I'm going to put those, and I'll show you that in a minute. But got these buds coming up. They're pretty good size, and I think there's some kind of lettuce, but I'll let them go because whatever it is, it's edible because that's all I've put in here. So as you can see, the spaghetti lines out of this box, nothing's planted there yet except I planted some peas here, and then I'll put peppers in the center of this box. And the reason I planted the peas now is because they will grow in the cold, and they'll do really well actually, and if I can get them in early enough, I might even be able to have 2 or 3 crops this year of peas. And as you can see, I've got something new this year, these PVC lines that are coming up and over. These are going to work as a little greenhouse. I've got some 2 mil plastic I'm going to put over it, so when I get my zucchini and tomatoes and peppers ready to go in as little seedlings that I've started in the house, I'm going to cover them with the plastic and see if I can get a couple more weeks out of them this year. So I'm pretty excited. I'm going to be doing some fun stuff here. I've got my tomato cages. I was measuring where the tomatoes needed to go and how close I could get those cages because they're like they're 6 foot cages, so they're really, really tall. But I grow tomato trees, so I need the big cages. So that's what we've got going over on this side as we come around. So I've got my vegetable garden over on this side, and I've just got on the ground just some crusher rock. Weeds do grow in it on occasion, but the roots are so shallow I can just sort of use a little hoe or a little rake and they just come right up, so it's pretty easy to maintain. And then grass in the center, got a little back patio here, still working on getting everything cleaned up for the spring, and my pergola here. And then on this side is what I call my grandma's garden, or my flower garden. Everything's just sort of thrown in. Now, this area that looks kind of empty here is where the mint's coming up. You can see I've got some little sprouts. I don't have to worry even about watering the mint because it's gonna come up no matter what I do. I've got some thyme that came up from last year, a little cactus over here. He's really cute. I found him in the rocks a couple years ago, about not even an inch tall, and I transplanted him, and there he's growing. Isn't that cute? Let's see, what else do I have back here? I've got hostas coming up here, way more than I planted 2 years ago. I think there was like 2 in a bunch, and now they're coming up like 5 or 6. So I might transplant them, a couple of them, just sort of separate them. We'll see how that goes. Strawberries down here, and these 2 little bushes here are blueberries. They haven't done real well. I've gotten sort of like a handful each year, and I keep thinking, oh, they'll get bigger, they'll grow, but not doing that great. And I hear they don't do real well in Colorado, so I'm not too surprised. Got some rose bushes and some other little pretty flowers in here, and stuff just kind of grows. I threw down some wildflower seeds, and those kind of spread around. So now every year I've got these poppies coming up. I've got columbines back here. Got a couple little weeds I need to pull. Some other flowers. I have one little hyacinth here. And tons and tons and tons of baby dill. This is where all my dill grows. See all that? I know it doesn't look like much, but that's the baby dill. And then back here in the corner this year, I thought I'd try something new. So, like I said in the past, I had planted some lettuce and spinach in that other box up there in the front where the kale and collard greens are. So this year, I thought I would try them back here in kind of this sort of shady area by my fence. There's a lilac bush here, and that'll give it some shade. And then it'll get some afternoon sun, but not a ton. So obviously nothing's up yet. I just planted them like 2 days ago. Planted them Sunday. Today's Tuesday. So they've just been a couple days, but we'll be watching for those to come up. And here's my lilac bush, and he didn't bloom last year because I cut him back so much. He was like a lilac tree. So that's where we are. The clematis hasn't done real well. I'm kind of hoping that now that I have the sprinklers fixed on this side of the garden, it'll do better. But that's my little tiny clematis right there. Last year he grew all the way up here, but this year he just kind of started off the ground, which is fine. Maybe he'll be stronger this year. But that's what I've got going on my garden. And I'll check back when things start growing and as I plant a little bit more.